So what's going on, guys? My name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I apologize for not uploading the past couple of days. I've just been really busy. I hope you guys understand that, but I'm going to try my absolute best to be as consistent as possible for as long as possible. But anyway, guys, today's video is about custom tactics, and more specifically, what are they and what do they do? But before we get into that, guys, I would appreciate it if you could all drop a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And with that aside, guys, let's get into it. For those that are completely new to FIFA, if you want to access your custom tactics, you go into your squad building screen and you press triangle and go down to custom tactics, or Y if you are on Xbox, and these are values that you can change to customize your strategy supposedly in FIFA. So essentially, guys, when you change these values, you are changing the way you approach the game, you are changing your style. Now, I've seen a few people in the community that don't seem to think these custom tactics change anything. So if you guys want me to play a game with all of them on 0 or all of them on 100, then let me know and I can do that. Now, from what I hear of it, most people get the general gist of what these custom tactics do, but they don't really know what the individual values change, if that makes sense. So they don't really understand the difference from having it on 70 to 50. Now, this is partly due to EA's lack of communication with the community once again. Like, I can't remember the time where they told anybody what these exact values do, what changing this value will do, because it's EA, they don't talk to people. So what I say might not be 100% accurate because I didn't code the game. I don't know what these things do. I'm just going off what I've noticed because, to be completely honest, guys, I have noticed a difference when I change these values. Now, starting off with the speed part in the build-up play section, this is essentially how fast you will build up the play. So if you have this value very high, you're going to make your passes faster. You're going to be very quick, which can be quite risky, which is why you want it, I don't know, relatively low. Well, by low I mean balanced, as in like having the value on 50, because you have the ability to speed up the play if you want to, and also slow it down if you want to, so you can change the way you play throughout the game, I suppose. Especially if you use a balanced formation such as the 4-2-3-1 narrow. But anyway, to sum up, however high you have the speed value in the build-up play, that's how fast you will pass the ball if you're in your own half, I do believe. 1 being really slow, 100 being Sonic speed. Now, the passing part of the build-up play section is how players will move, how much they will move to receive passes. This is quite a difficult one to explain, but I'm going to try my best. So if you had this value really high, instead of your team completely keeping their shape, they will move about so they can receive the ball in different positions, which can be very effective because it's good at keeping the ball. But when you do get caught out, you're going to have players just all over the place, and it's not the same as having your positioning on freeform, which I'm going to explain. So personally, for the passing part in the build-up play, I have it on 50 because it's balanced. You will have your players moving about looking for passes, but they won't be all over the place, and when you lose the ball, you're not completely screwed. But anyway, for the positioning part, you have two options, and that is organized and freeform. If you have this on organized, all of your players will stay in their fixed positions. They will not move about with each other, they will not alternate, they will not swap positions or anything like that. Whereas if you have it on freeform, players will move about with each other to create more chances and stuff. And you don't really want this in build-up play because you don't want your centre-back swapping with your left-back, because like I said, when you get caught out, you're screwed. And since this mainly affects your defenders and your central defensive midfielders, you don't need them swapping positions because their job isn't to create chances, that's the job for your attackers. But to sum up the build-up play section of the custom tactics, you want your speed relatively balanced so you can speed up if you want to or slow down if you want to. You want your passing pretty balanced so you can, I don't know, call for passes and stuff, but your team doesn't get dragged out of position. And you want your positioning on organised because you don't want your left-backs and centre-backs swapping. You don't want your centre-backs going into midfield. You know how messy it can be. Now, the chance creation sections affects what your players will do in the final third. Now this is where you might want to spice it up a little bit because you need to be unpredictable here. It's not necessarily like your defense where you have to keep a specific position. You can switch this up a bit. And you can see that there are 4 different parts to this chance creation section, which I'm going to explain. Now starting off, we have the passing variable, which you can change, and much like the build-up play one, this affects how many people will come for passes, how much they will move about looking for passes, that kind of thing. And it wasn't necessarily good to have in your build-up play because, like I said, you don't want your team completely losing its shape. But when you're in the final third of the pitch, it's very difficult. Well, it can be very difficult to find passes, so increasing this value makes it so your players will move around, look for passes, you know, make the passes available so you can actually keep the ball. This in itself can make it very easy to create chances for your strikers to score. This is why I personally have this value on 60, because I want my players to be a bit more unpredictable in the final third. I want to make things happen. It's not like build-up play where you don't want your players to lose their shape. You need your players to move about in the final third, otherwise you're not really going to get anywhere. Now the crossing part to the chance creation is exactly like the passing part, except it's for crossing instead. And if you're using a narrow formation like me, you don't really want your players getting into crossing positions because your players aren't wide. But at the same time, if you are using the 4-2-3-1, it does have a little bit of width, and it is useful to have this crossing value on about 50 because it gives you that option if you need to switch something up, and it makes you very unpredictable against your opponents because they're not sure whether you're going to try to pass it or cross it back post. So to sum this one up, I have this value on 50 because I like having the option to cross instead of just passing because it makes me unpredictable. Now the next part of the chance creation section is the shooting variable, and the same thing applies just like the other ones. This value affects how much movement your players will have to get into shooting positions. So let's say you have this value on really high, your players are going to move about a lot to get into these positions where they can shoot. And if you have it really low, they're going to do that less. Now the reason I have this value on 65, which is the highest I have out of any value, is because I want my players to get into shooting positions, especially in the final third. I think it's very, very important, and it makes it easier to score goals. At the same time, you don't want this value on like 100 because you don't just want your players in shooting positions, otherwise you'll never get the ball to them. But anyway, the last part of the chance creation is the positioning like the build-up play, and you have 2 options, which is organized and freeform, and they do the same thing as before. If you have the positioning on organized, your players will not switch around, they will not move positions, they won't alternate, and essentially when you're in the final third, this makes it very difficult to create chances. So I suggest you have it on freeform because you'll have all of your attacking players moving about. It's hard for your defenders to read, and it essentially ends up with more goals. So I have this on freeform because I want my players to be making as many chances as possible with as much ease as possible. Now the last part we have is the defense section, and this affects how your players act when you are off the ball opposed to the other 2 where you change how your players act when you're on the ball. And the first part we have for the defense is the pressure, and this is basically how high your defensive line is. So like if you had this value on really low, your players will basically be in your own box at all times, whereas if you have this value on pretty high, your players will be near the halfway line. So I keep this value on 50 because I don't like my team to be so far back that I'm constantly under pressure, but I don't want them to be at the halfway line so one through ball plays out my whole defensive line. So I have it on 50 because it's at that part of the pitch where my defenders have enough pace to get back if a ball is played, but they're not so far back that they're constantly under pressure. Now the next section is aggression, and this literally affects how aggressive your team are. It affects how much your players chase, get close to the player on the ball, how fast they'll close them down, that kind of thing. And this is great if you want to be constantly on the ball and you don't want your opponent to have, like, you know, freedom. And for the most part, having high aggression is great because you close down your opponent very quickly and often win the ball, and it frustrates them. But there is the odd chance in the game where they break past it and they play a ball wide because all of your players are so compact trying to win the ball. I've also noticed a lot more auto lunges when I have high aggression, and this can be great when they win the ball, but sometimes they'll just slide and they're played completely out of the game. So recently I've had this value on about 50 because I like having that balance where my players are aggressive but at the same time they're not so aggressive that they leave gaps. Now the team width part should be quite self-explanatory. This just affects how wide your whole team is. Increasing this value will make your team wider, but it will also create a lot more gaps across the pitch. And similarly, if you decrease this value, it decreases the width that you have and creates space down the wings. If you have a narrow formation, you want this value to be lower, but if you have a wider formation, you want it to be quite high. I currently rock this on about 40, I do believe, because I rock a narrow formation and I want my team to be quite compact and I don't want there to be many gaps. But if I come up against a wide formation or something, I will up it to about 45 or 50 just to give me that extra chance down the wings. Now the last part of this entire section is the defender line, and there's two options for this. You can have it on cover or offside trap. If you have it on cover, your players will focus on trying to cover the runs, block off the runs, and keep a nice line so it's hard for the opposition team to get past. Whereas if you have this on offside trap, your players will often jump forward and sometimes play the opposition offside, but it can often lead to goals because they get it wrong. So I leave this on cover because it's far too risky to have it on offside trap in my opinion. But yeah, that just about sums it up for this video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you could drop a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on any videos like this one. Also be sure to comment down in the comment section what videos you want to see next, because I am interested to take down suggestions. But yeah, with all that aside, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day and I will catch you all later. Peace.